I'm just wondering too, like, since you're a doctor, if the financial system is, the human body and this fiat currency is the disease, would you prescribe Bitcoin?
That's exactly what I would do. If you feel like you're drowning in debt, you feel like you can't get ahead, you feel like you're picking up extra shifts and an extra job to try and stay ahead or try and stay even, the way to fix that is with Bitcoin.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you're brand new to Bitcoin, come on in and chat about sats with us. Head to satchats.com. I'll be your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I'm your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, resident Bitcoin smash buyer when my wife lets me. And I'm the guy who announces our 10 million sats giveaway at the beginning of every episode. 10 million sats are being given away by Sat Chats on YouTube. All you have to do is smash the subscribe button, just like I smashed buy Bitcoin.
And we're also on the road to number 99, Kristen, my wife. But who we have in the studio today is number 92, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So number 0, Chris, and I went to the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas this year.
Yep.
And on the second or third day, I was downstairs for breakfast with Sat Chats, like, goosh! And then on the back was a big old QR code.
Yeah.
Somebody says, hey, man, can I scan the back of your shirt? Well, yeah, of course. It was Chris. And Chris scanned the back of my T-shirt. He grabbed his slot in the studio, and then he handed me a copy of his book, The Satoshi Key.
That's phenomenal.
Which is a work of fiction that's designed to help people learn more about Bitcoin the same way our podcast is designed to help people learn more about Bitcoin. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it grew out of my desire to try and help people understand Bitcoin without having to read a real technical book.
Yeah. Fiction is a great way to learn. Before we get into your Bitcoin story, Chris, help our Satillionaires out there get to know you a little bit.
So currently I'm a family medicine doctor at a multi-specialty clinic here in New Mexico. I've been here for just about 3 years. Actually wrapping up my time here and in the process of moving. I went to medical school at Texas Tech and then residency at University of Florida. And then we were looking to get back out west to the mountains. So that's what brought us out to New Mexico. Married, have a couple kids. In my spare time, I'm probably a little bit too obsessed with basketball, but I enjoy sports and running and working out and writing. Writing's always been a hobby of mine, and finally I put it to some good use. That's me.
So tell us your Bitcoin story then.
Yeah, so I probably jumped in a little bit irresponsibly quick with it. So I found it originally back in 2016. And first time I heard about it, it went through my brain pretty quick. Came back to it a couple months later. At that point, I'd actually started medical school. So as a transition from undergrad, we had my oldest daughter during that time, and then I started medical school. And looking at the cost of tuition and all the costs that were going into it was a little bit overwhelming. And I had seen that Bitcoin I'd heard about it a few months earlier. It had gone up quite a bit. And so I dove into it, trying to understand why it was different. And it was one of those things that just kind of clicks with you in your brain. I don't know that I could elucidate all the reasons why it appealed to me at that point, but it really just kind of clicked and made sense. And I thought, oh, this is what money should be. I have an accounting background. My undergraduate degree is actually in accounting, so I have some finance background that way. But so shortly after medical school, I knew I'd be taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans, and we had just a little bit left over in our savings. Because at the time, my daughter was 8 months old, so my wife wasn't working. I was full-time in school. And so I took the money we had in the savings account, just dumped it all into Bitcoin. That was December 2016. Unfortunately, like I said, we weren't very wealthy at the time, so it wasn't a whole lot of money to go into it. But what I was able to buy is essentially paid for medical school.
Whoa, let's slow that down for a second here. So you're telling me that you were going to be taking out several $100,000 worth of student loans to get yourself through medical school at a time when you were not working and your wife was not working because you had a kid who was 8 months old. Now, either the savings that you had accumulated up to that point, or whatever was the remainder of the loans that you took out after paying for things, it wasn't very much money, but you smashed it into Bitcoin at the end of 2016, and that ended up paying for the several $100,000 worth of loans?
So I did still take out the several $100,000 worth of loans, but the Bitcoin that I bought at that point appreciated to where it's more than the loans that I took out.
Can you satillionaires hear this or what? How can we present this phenomenon to you as a pre-coiner where you say, oh my gosh, the small amount of savings ended up paying over time for the massive loans? How many doctors went through medical school with, and they just finished with several $100,000 worth of loans?
Essentially everybody.
Oh,
I mean, this is the exact scenario that you were describing. I don't know if we were recording yet, but with your kids and college tuition in 10 years or whatever it is.
Yes. Where I was calculating what I think college tuition will cost by the time they get there is an astronomical figure just to send them to undergrad. 8 years of undergrad, by my calculations, is going to be $500,000 by the time they reach there. And the only way we can get there is to take a small amount of money now, put it into Bitcoin.
Chris, so we just had a conversation this morning with someone who was keyed into like blockchain technology around the same time frame that we're talking about here, 2016. But if you really think back to that time, blockchain was this new, really exciting tech, but there were all these like horses in the race. It's like, how did you pick Bitcoin as the one back then?
It clicked. It made sense. It was one of those things you read about it and thought through it. I couldn't find any logical flaws in it. I mean, not completely perfect, but as I thought more and more about it, I just couldn't see how it failed or see how it didn't fix a very big problem. I mean, to be fair, I did buy a little bit of various other coins at that time, and it was everything went up, so it didn't matter too much. But eventually I figured out pretty quickly that I needed to keep everything in Bitcoin if I wanted to preserve any of the buying power that I had.
How did you figure that out? For someone who is at the beginning of their journey and they see Bitcoin, but then they make an account on an exchange that's also showing them like 50 other tokens and just kind of turning their experience into like a crypto casino. How did you cut through the blinking lights and the noises and all that to say, okay, I've got experience with Bitcoin and with crypto, but this crypto has no legs and I need to sell that off and just be Bitcoin only?
So I think that probably the biggest thing was just the hard cap, that there's only going to be 21 million. Some of those are gone already. And that that any of it that you can get your hands on is probably going to be worth more in the future. I mean, the thing that stood out to me the most was the hard cap, just that there wouldn't be any more than that. If you had it, it would be valuable. It wouldn't lose its value because you wouldn't be able to make more of it. The fact that it's distributed out over time, that it has the largest kind of strongest network behind it to prevent it from getting altered by a bad actor.
Okay. So if you were speaking to someone with a little bit of exposure to this world, you might point out that Bitcoin is the best and the biggest and the strongest of all the options.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
You summarized it much more succinctly than I did.
Well, it's my day job. That's what I do. I do this. It's like Martin Short says in the Father of the Bride. He's like, trust me, I do this for a living.
That's right, Frank.
Was that his name?
Yeah, I
Something like
think
that, Frank. But let's imagine this, Chris. Let's imagine that you've got someone with no exposure to any of this. They are just a regular everyday person who is earning in dollars and saving in dollars. And you want to do what we call on this show a pre-coiner pitch. You kind of want to hit them with this elevator pitch for Bitcoin that might actually cut through all the noise and get them interested in learning more. How would you present Bitcoin in that case?
I mean, I would relate it to digital gold. You're able to transfer it easily. It holds a value. With your dollars, they're constantly becoming worth less and less. You go to the grocery store and you see it every single day. You look to buy a house, you see how far the money goes now. But with something like Bitcoin that's a hard money, it preserves your purchasing power.
It's interesting because I almost hear you struggling to condense it down efficiently and in a snappy way.
It's hard.
And that's because it's freaking hard.
It's because there's so much there. There's so much.
It's almost impossible to try to find the 30-second skeleton key that would turn any lock inside any person.
Yeah, because it's different for everyone.
And I'm reading a book right now, Chris, where the author gets to talking about Bitcoin, and there's a little footnote where he explains how Bitcoin is this thing that people explain and you feel like you understand it, and you wake up the next morning and you don't understand Bitcoin. And like you have to be, it's like something that we are constantly attempting to explain and understand to one another. And it's like this, it's like having mercury on the table and you push your finger into it and it kind of spreads out away from your finger. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to pin down Bitcoin. And really,
in the beginning,
yeah, it's almost like you really must go through, Bitcoin requires proof of work in all things. And that includes proving to Bitcoin that you have studied it enough to grasp it.
Well, that's what I love about the way the Bitcoin standard is written, is because it forces you to understand the history of money, what makes good money, what makes bad money. And then under that context, you can begin to grasp some of the fundamental principles that make Bitcoin what it is.
Yeah. I mean, and interestingly enough, that's almost exclusively from an economic perspective.
True.
And, you could approach Bitcoin from a philosophical perspective and say, what if money were fair for every single individual, organization, and government on the planet? What would that do?
Yeah.
And some people approach it technologically and they're like, wow, Bitcoin is a machine that operates in public view according to rules everyone can see. And it's like,
solve the copy paste problem,
Yeah, solves the copy paste problem. It's like Simple Steve says, like, it's like the Wright brothers put together an airplane from spare lawnmower parts, flew it, and then just disappeared.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways to come at Bitcoin, and we are searching for like the most appealing initial place, and is it to tell a pre-coiner, well, guess what? It's been the top performing asset for 16 years in a row. Hey, look, this thing is going up 200% on average a year. Do you just, did when you came into Bitcoin, Chris, was your initial idea, I'm going to get rich? Did you get into it for number go up technology?
I mean, it's definitely appealing. I was just I knew what I had left in the savings account would be useless by the time I got out. It was a rounding error on the debt that I'd owe. And so it was more, I just need something more productive to do with my money than just leave it sitting in the savings account, because it's going to be almost worthless by the time I get around to using it.
Okay. So you kind of understood that maybe it's okay to earn dollars, but saving dollars is just kind of a melting ice cube situation.
Exactly.
I'm just wondering too, like, since you're a doctor, if the financial system is, the human body, and this fiat currency is the disease, would you prescribe Bitcoin?
That's actually a really good way to put it. That's exactly what I would do. If you feel like you're drowning in debt, you feel like you can't get ahead, you feel like you're picking up extra shifts and an extra job to try and stay ahead or try and stay even. The way to fix that is with Bitcoin. It's like throw out the ice cream and the Cheetos and the potato chips and replace it with a steak. And that amazing how many problems Bitcoin and steak fix.
Fiber and protein versus sugar and simple carbohydrates.
Wow. It's amazing how many problems Bitcoin and steak fixes. Now that you found Bitcoin and you exchanged some of your dollars for Bitcoin, you saw it appreciate, you saw it actually grow to actually gobble up your student loans. What is life like for you now that you are a Bitcoiner?
So I have way more hope than I would have otherwise, and optimism. Because if I didn't have that, it would be decades and decades of working to try and pay off the student loans. I was looking at numbers the other day. Since 2000, the year 2000, the average family medicine physician salary is up about 10% in 25 years. Over
Wow.
that time, medical school costs have doubled or tripled, and that's not even taking into account all the inflation and the cost of a house. And I'd be fighting an uphill battle literally the rest of my life trying to pay that off. And what it gives me is the flexibility to leave a traditional medicine job in the traditional medical system and try and set up my own direct primary care practice where we can operate outside of the traditional medical system and all the problems that come with that. So it's given me optimism and flexibility.
Here you are inside a system that doesn't make any sense because the cost of acquiring the skills has doubled or tripled, and the return on that investment has only gone up 10%. So you would be automatically saddled with a lifetime of debt simply in an attempt to acquire the skills to have a lucrative career. What? So
and help society.
yeah. You might have come at it because you I don't know, are that person. I'm incredibly selfish and self-centered and am clearly struggling with that today. You might actually be a good dude, and the money is just a side effect of that. But dang, that doesn't make any sense. And so you're going to be moving from where you are now, which I think you said was it Arizona?
New Mexico.
So you're moving to Texas because not only are you describing a system where the costs of acquiring the skills makes it not so juicy, but the insurance, the kind of that it's not the military industrial complex, it's the
Healthcare industrial.
or the healthcare
Yep.
insurance complex or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a third party. That third party is getting in between you and your patient. I want you, if you can, to draw a parallel between the insurance company acting as a third party that makes the doctor and the patient's experience worse with the third party of the government or the banks or the credit cards or the loans or whatever, getting in between a dude and sending value to another dude, or between a dude and his money. You know what I mean? Like, can you help us see the parallels between what happens when you have two parties and then a third one just wants to get on in there?
So I think the best example to compare it with health insurance is car insurance. Like, you have car insurance if you get in an accident and you get a big bill, but you don't use your car insurance to fill up your car with gas or to get regular maintenance done. And that's what's happened with health insurance. Is initially it was just there for large expenses, like if you had a heart attack or had to go to the hospital. But then generally, under the idea of making healthcare more affordable, insurance is snuck into every single aspect of your relationship with the healthcare system. So I have someone come in, we sit down, me and them in the room, 20, 30 minutes. They leave. I have to go sit down at my computer write out this big long note telling the insurance company everything we talked about because they weren't involved in it, but they're the ones paying for it. And then I have to justify everything we want to do. And since they have no, really no healthcare experience, they're relying on these outside guidelines that come from various groups and organizations that all have their various influences. So they're trying to dictate medical care without being there and pay for it without being there. And that just introduces a lot of unnecessary barriers between me providing medical care for the patient. It's harder for them. They don't know what the bill is going to be in a couple weeks when it shows up at the door. It could be any random amount. Um, if I freeze a mole or cut off a wart or something like that, honestly, I don't know what it costs. I don't know what it shows up with on their bill, and they don't know until it shows up. It's just such a mess without any transparency logic to it a lot of the time.
Mm. And how would you equate that to like the third parties in the financial system that are getting in between us and, our ability to earn money and do good?
Everybody just wants to get their cut. They think they can facilitate and make it easier. The idealistic idea behind health insurance is that everyone gets equal care regardless of what you can pay, but it actually just makes everything more expensive for everybody in between because there's a middleman trying to take their cut. Same thing in the financial system. If you're trying to send money to somebody, if you're storing your money somewhere, everyone's always taking a cut. They're looking just bits and pieces here and there. And then over time it adds up. And I mean, we know our healthcare system isn't operating optimally. We have terrible chronic diseases in the country. Medicine is great at acute care. You come in with a sore throat, you come in with a cut, having a heart attack. Healthcare is great for that. For the chronic diseases, it's completely missed the boat. We have more diabetes, more obesity. It's just getting worse and worse. And that's because true medical care between the individuals is um, globbed up by insurance companies trying to take their cut.
So you're building something called direct primary care where you're going to charge a monthly subscription to have a direct peer-to-peer
Wow.
peer-to-peer health care, just like Bitcoin is peer-to-peer electronic cash, correct?
Exactly. If you want to get back to the old style of medicine where you had your local community doctor who everybody knew and everybody went to, you cannot operate inside the insurance system anymore because the overhead costs are so great. So you have to move to a system where I provide care, you pay me for that care. It's free market. There's nothing coming in from the outside. If you don't think what I'm providing is worth it, then you don't pay me. But it is a peer-to-peer direct way to do medicine outside the grips of insurance and everything else. So if we want to get back to how medical care should be between a doctor and the patient, we have to find a way to get outside the traditional insurance mechanism.
And I guess last question, selfishly for me, would you combine a monthly if for me, let's imagine that this is what I want, Chris. I want direct primary care in exchange for a monthly subscription. But do I need to combine that with like I think it's called like major medical insurance, where it's like, look, man, if you get hit by a bus, the first $15,000 is on you. We'll cover the rest, and in exchange, the monthly premium for that insurance is nowhere near the insane premium that I pay now. Like, is it kind of like a little 1-2, like hey, here's my baseline with Chris on a monthly subscription, and here's my disaster relief basically at a lower monthly premium? Do I need that 1-2 punch?
Yeah, that's what you would, something like that, the high deductible insurance in case something bad happens. Something like Crowd Health, what they do is really interesting, kind of similar idea, just crowd funded. But yeah, you'd want something in case something terrible happens.
Are you going to take Bitcoin in exchange for your services in Austin?
Absolutely, and probably give you a discount if you pay in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Now, off the top of your head, gut check, what level of discount would you give for those who pay you in Satoshis instead of dollars? 5, 15, 20,
I've been thinking 10.
10, 10%.
Hmm.
Now, would you pay in Satoshis if it meant 10% off? Or would you be like, brah, these Satoshis are going to the moon. Here's some fiat.
I mean, yeah, I would. Ideally, I want to get to a place where I'm spending in dollars and I'm saving and holding in Bitcoin.
I think eventually, though, I hope we reach a situation where Bitcoin is the only money there is.
Yeah, I know.
And so you're earning in Bitcoin, you're saving in Bitcoin, you're spending in Bitcoin. And speaking of Bitcoin, because I know I hope that digression into healthcare was interesting for people to see that there's a parallel and maybe some practical information if they're unhappy with the healthcare system.
Well, I mean, I will just say too, like in any in any industry,
Yeah.
Free market capitalism will ultimately eliminate the need for any middleman of any kind. There should be no middleman in anything. I mean, why?
The natural state of the market is peer-to-peer
and deflationary too, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I quite frankly, when you read the Bitcoin Standard and you learn that money is the solution to bartering,
right?
Where you may not you may not have the item that the person wants. So it's to my way of thinking, it's like, guys, we already created a third party. It's called the money, right? And that's going to stand in for any other thing you might want. So we already made the third party. We don't need a fourth party coming in here trying to get in between me, first party, you, second party, the Bitcoin or the money, third party. That's a fourth party intermediary when you really think about it.
It's like, oh yeah, you two want to have a transaction. Well, you give me the money, I'll hold the money.
Yeah.
And then I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Oh,
yeah.
I see the chef in the back of the restaurant has cooked up Chris's steak medium rare. I'll take it out to his table, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And I'm going to take a big old bite out of that steak for myself.
Yeah.
Because I carried it.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So tell us about the book you wrote. It's called The Satoshi Key.
Correct. So the idea was to make something that's more accessible to people who wouldn't read a Bitcoin book, a technical book, because so much appeals to the technical side or the financial side, but very few people in my life are going to sit down and read a book like that. So what I wanted to do was make something approachable, something written by a Bitcoiner that expresses the ethos and the philosophy behind Bitcoin in an interesting way. So you get to the end and you've been engrossed in this thriller story, but you come out on the other side realizing positive aspects of Bitcoin and what it can do. So the story, it starts out basically where The Big Short, that movie, where that ends, starts out with the protagonist in 2008, their family losing their house and him having to move again. And it ties it directly to the Bitcoin white paper being released and how that addressed all the problems in society. And then it follows this young accountant named John who's dealing with wild medical bills because his daughter, who was born with some congenital defects and has spent months in the ICU learning about Bitcoin, and kind of his process of learning what Bitcoin can do for the world and the problem, how it fixes various problems. If we want to get Bitcoin out there to a wider audience, people, Bitcoiners, they hear, oh, it's a fictional Bitcoin book and kind of roll their eyes. I mean, because Bitcoin's a serious thing. It fixes real world problems. Why are we trivializing it into a fictional story that's not real? But what it does, I mean, if we want to get this widely accepted, we need to get it out there. And a big hook for that, let's say he's got all his Bitcoin somewhere. That's the greatest treasure in the world. Like nothing comes close. That grabs people's attention. And if you can grab people's attention with that one piece and then talk about the actual use of Bitcoin as the story goes along, I think it introduces Bitcoin to people who would never dig into it otherwise.
So does John the accountant go on a thriller type adventure to try to find the key to Satoshi's treasure?
So what happens, he comes into possession of a hard drive that he finds out may be able to unlock Satoshi's wallet. And then he finds out that before he disappeared, Satoshi created 3 hard drives, each with a portion of the private key, basically a multi-sig wallet, and gave it to 3 different early developers. So the coins wouldn't be lost forever, but they could be used if necessary to help Bitcoin grow. So he finds that he's got one of them. One of them was destroyed, and then there's this evil CEO megalomaniac who claims to be Satoshi who has the other one. So the 2 drives, one's held by John, one's held by this guy who claims to be Satoshi, who wants access to the money and to the fame that comes if he can prove that he's Satoshi. So the first part of the book, it's the story, and it actually incorporates a lot of Satoshi's original emails explaining Bitcoin. And then the second half of the book switches where Satoshi, as a character in the book, comes out of retirement and interacts with John and helps him figure out how to get to the coins so they're not lost forever, and so the evil CEO doesn't get them. And in that process, he learns about Bitcoin. He goes to a Bitcoin meetup, meets other Bitcoiners, and eventually finds clues hidden in the blockchain that help him decipher the code that, well, spoiler alert, he gets to the end of the book and gets access and now has the moral quandary of what he's supposed to do because he holds so much power in his hands. So that's the idea behind the book.
Dude, I want Satoshi's coins. All right, so that's the Satoshi key. Where can our Satillionaires go to get themselves a copy of John's thrilling adventure?
So it's on Amazon in paperback or ebook format. So easy to find. You know, once you get into it, it's really an exciting story with Bitcoin mixed in. So I think, you know, once you get into it, you'll love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it already. So Satoshi Key on Amazon. All right. So let's recap here with number 92, Chris. He is a doctor. And when he was looking at several $100,000 worth of medical loans in order to acquire a skill set that's only going to make 10% more cash than it was making 25 years ago, along with a wife who wasn't working because she's taking care of a newborn, Chris was like, I need Bitcoin. And he took a small amount in his savings, certainly small compared to the size of the loans, smashed it into Bitcoin at the end of 2016, along with some other cryptocurrency. And the whole thing went.
Yeah. Wow.
It grew and appreciated to the point where it offset those loans. He also learned that the other cryptocurrencies he had invested in were not long-term vehicles for wealth and safety. So got rid of those and is Bitcoin only. Is going to be moving soon to Austin to start a direct primary care outfit facility. I'm not sure what practice. Practice. So here Chris is putting his blood, sweat, and tears into Bitcoin, and we got him on this podcast talking about his practice. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have his direct primary care practice, which basically exits from the healthcare insurance complex and returns to the land of peer-to-peer care. Incredibly similar parallel to how Bitcoin eliminates that financial
third-party reliance
complex thing, and just get you back to peer-to-peer electronic cash. Mm-hmm. You get the middleman out, because what is he even there for? Mm-hmm. What is he even there for? To get his cut. It's like number 88 Mark said, he just wants some rent. standing out on the other side of the Western Union to get some rent from the person who went in there to get the money that had been sent to them from another country. So we talked about how it is different from other cryptocurrencies, how it's better than the US dollar. And if you're going to be living in Austin, you can get some direct primary care from number 92, Chris. And if you pay him in sats, 10% off. Allegedly, potentially, still
Maybe.
evaluating that number.
Thinking about it.
Still evaluating that number.
Yeah.
But Chris over here gets it.
Yeah.
We also talked about his novel, The Satoshi Key, which is a thriller that follows John the accountant on a wild journey to collect the key to Satoshi's wallet, which has a 1 million Bitcoin in it.
No.
And you can go on to Amazon.com and search for the Satoshi Key to get your own copy, either in the real world or right there on your Kindle.
Mm-hmm.
Or various e-reader.
The Da Vinci Code of Bitcoin is a concise way to describe the book.
Nice.
I like that.
Nice. The Da Vinci Code of Bitcoin. So let's take a brain break to taste the Da Vinci Code of
Hummus. All right. Chris, our founding sponsor here on Sat Chats is my company, Ithaca Hummus. And we've got the olive oil and sea salt flavor here for you. Stuart's going to act as your taste buds.
Yes.
And we're going to taste this right here.
Here we go.
Wow. Really taste that olive oil.
Mm-hmm. Like, not only does it have a really nice creamy hummus texture, but also just like a very healthy tasting olive oil flavor that's not too spicy, not too peppery.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tasty, Chris, that as like the first amount of like woven wheat and hummus tries to start working its way to the back of my mouth, actually smush it back forward and re-spread it over the taste buds on my tongue. Like, no. Don't go anywhere yet. Let me get some more taste out of you before you go down the gullet, because it's trying to sneak its way into the mouth. Like, no, go back. Let's spend some time together. That is a delicious hummus.
So good. All right, so I've already went ahead and calculated the $50 worth of Bitcoin. I will point out
Getting faster.
One Bitcoin, the exchange rate for one Bitcoin, according to the confirmed on-chain price, is $120,673 for one Bitcoin right
Pumping.
now. Yes. So you take that, you do some calculations. That is 41,434 Satoshis, or $50 is what we're going to offer you for coming on the show today, Chris. Which one will you choose?
I'll take the Satoshis.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Boom. He
All
didn't
right.
write the US dollar key.
No.
Nah, he wrote the Satoshi key, baby.
Yeah.
So thank you for stacking the sats with us here today, Chris. You bring our show's scoreboard to 84 guests that have stacked the sats, along with 8 who need a little bit more time. And when they come back on the show, we're going to do a little bit more work on them, and we're going to keep helping them see.
Yep.
We're also going to ask you if you'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on your Bitcoin baby.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Super duper.
We'll get to check in on your trip to Austin, the beginnings of your direct primary care there, the success of your novel. It's going to be great.
We're going to see what those 41,000 sats are going to be worth at that point in time.
He's going to be like, I actually was able to seed my practice in its entirety with only the 41,000 sats that I stacked on the show, because over the past 9 months, Bitcoin has gone to $100 million a coin.
Spoiler alert, though. You know what those 41,000 sats are going to be worth in 9 months?
41,000 sats.
Correct.
Yeah, 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Keep watching the show until you understand that deep in your innermost self. Okay? So, Satillionaires, this is the part of the show where we ask you for your value in exchange for ours. We gave number 92, Chris, 46,000 Satoshis in exchange for the value he brought on today's show with his story, with his healthcare experience, with his conviction in Bitcoin. We are going to ask you for something in return for this show. What is it? YouTube subscriptions.
Just subscribe, please.
And we're going to keep the value loop rolling because in exchange for this show, we're asking you for your subscription. But in exchange for the subscription, we'll give you a chance at 10 million sats.
So great.
Not 46,000, 10 million. And all you got to do is smash the subscribe button on YouTube the same way Chris buys Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
When we reach 100,000 subscribers, we will select one of you at random and drop 10 million sats on your head, which is currently exchanging for $12,000. We would also like for you to chain watch our playlist, right? Go back through all the past episodes. Number 60 is a banger. Number 27 is a banger. Number 88 is a banger. Number 14 is a banger.
Yeah.
So put that playlist on in the background while you're driving or working and let us keep you company. That will help us unlock a membership area and monetization on YouTube so that we can kick off our show with an ad from Zaxby's.
Yep.
All right. We also want you to come on the show, satchats.com, to grab your slot in the studio today. Number 92, Chris, did it off the back of my t-shirt. You can pull up your browser on your phone and just pick a time to come in. It's fine. Our Lightning and on-chain Bitcoin addresses are also in the show notes. If you're a sponsor and you're watching this and you're like, wow, I'm going to go get some Mythica hummus now. Guess what? You could be our exchange. You could be our wallet. You could be our security service. You could be any number of things for us. And each time we talk about the thing that you do, we will mention you. And people will be like, oh, yeah, Bitcoin well. I'm going to go sign up now.
Yeah. Blue Wallet.
Blue Wallet. Oh, yeah, Blue Wallet. Oh, cool. Because we're not jabronis pushing random products. We're actually trustworthy individuals who can help you get a solid stack for you and your Bitcoin. All right, Chappie is going to tell us later on in a rehash that was too dang long, but I don't care, Chappie. We have goals. So, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own, but I did like the one about Bitcoin and stake fixing everything.
That was great.
We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.